Hello, hello.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Yo, man, how you doing?
I am good. Thanks for your time. I'm totally stoked for this.
Dude, hell yeah. And by the way, your mic sounds amazing. Some people, sometimes I do lessons to people where their mic is just like, are you in the car on a phone? Your
With a
quality's so good.
potato.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I got a recording mic. I was like, yeah, I might as well use it. So,
nice. But yeah, dude, me too. I'm fucking stoked. Let's do this. Cool, bum. First time we're doing a lesson. Let's get this shit going, man.
yeah,
So I guess just I did this with everybody. Just let me know, race, league, and we'll go from there.
yeah. So I'm Zerg. I think I'm more of a. I reached Diamond 1 just the other day, and then was promptly curb stomped back down to Diamond 2.
Okay.
So I think D2 would probably be the best representation of where I'm at right now.
Sure.
Yeah, and I've been playing. I mean, I've been playing for such a long time, but I never really drilled down and took it very seriously until it was like maybe 2015, where I managed to first get into Diamond. Played for a couple years, took a couple years off, and now I'm kind of getting back into it.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, and I mostly play just macro as much as possible. I actually don't do a lot of cheese. I'll try to do like throw it in there from time to time, but yeah, I'm just trying to play, macro styles and yeah,
It's all good. I think you have the right idea if you want to like actually get better at the game. If you cheese,
yeah,
you're always gonna have brick walls where you just run into and you're like, oh, okay, no, I can't really progress anymore because I'm kind of my cheese isn't working against these people
hmm
anymore, and now I don't know how to macro. So
yeah,
macro is
yeah,
definitely the good route to take for yourself.
cool, cool.
What matchup do you feel like is giving you like? What matchup do you think you want to work on the most, or what matchup do you think gives you the most trouble?
Yeah, I really think it's just ZVT, right? Most of my ZVZ I'm comfortable with. Even if I lose, I can usually identify where I went wrong. ZVP, kind of the same thing. It's usually I didn't hit timings right, or I didn't
Sure.
macro right, or I didn't scout the all in. Whereas ZVT, I think I don't know if it's just that I'm not fast enough,
That's
or maybe
honestly
I'm not
true.
doing.
That's true. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, that's like 100% what I think it is. I think the top two would definitely be like just basic like ZVT bio and just kind of dealing with constant harass and or trying to hold off constant harass while keeping up my macro and then trying to counter attack. And then the second would be like ZVT mech. But if we had to focus on one, I would definitely hope to focus on more like uh, macroing and maybe trying to find a way to I guess focus on like counter attacks or trying to be aggressive in ZVT bio so that I can kind of slow down that marine wave, that just kind of gets pushed at you all the time. So
Yeah, I would agree with you though.
if
Like,
that makes sense.
yeah, and it does. ZVT is the most, I would say, mechanically demanding matchup of all matchups, for Zerg
Mhm.
at least, because that matchup is like the biggest. And like creep is important against it in the other matchups too, but it's the most important by far in ZVT. And then ZVT
Mhm.
also has like a pacing mechanism where if you fall behind against a Terran player, generally speaking, your armies are like, especially when it's bio, your usual army is going to be melee focused, like Ling Bane type stuff. And if you don't have enough Ling Bane, you're going to die so hard because your army's gonna like thin out before it actually does damage. Because the thing about Ling Bane is it's all about like collapsing over your opponent to the degree where you'll take losses as you take the engagement because he's all range and you're all melee. And then as you
Mhm.
take losses, now you swarm him and overwhelm him. So as long as you have enough to like take losses as the fight starts and then just overrun him over the fight as progresses,
Mhm.
then you win. So it's all about like,
Right.
yeah, you can't miss the beat at all in terms of like when you make stuff. But then the matchups, it's a little bit more forgiving. But ZVT is very unforgiving if you fall behind.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I'm kind of like typing out notes too. If I don't know if that's
Oh,
coming through or
yeah,
not. I
no,
don't
you're
want to.
I can't hear it. You're fine.
Okay. Cool.
All right, so I guess what we can do is we have two options how we can do this. Like either way works for me. It doesn't matter. I can go into a
Mhm.
replay with you if you want, like one of your games that you feel like might represent how you play on average that might that show problems you have or things you might not understand, or I can give you a benchmark of a game where I can give you a build that I think would be suited well for you, and you could take that build and practice it. I could do a benchmark either way, to be honest, but
yeah, that would be awesome. I do like the idea of I've got quite a few replays that I did. I've got I guess what I was thinking was I've got one replay where I did, in my opinion, kind of what I felt was like my peak, like my A game.
Yeah.
And then I've got another game where I felt like I played as well as I could, but it wasn't enough. So maybe I guess either or both of those maybe might be helpful.
Let's go to the one where you think you played good. I want to see the one where you think you played a good version of yourself.
Cool. Yeah, and then just like rip it to shreds.
Yeah, and then I'll give you some ideas, and then I'll give you an example afterwards.
Okay, cool.
So all you got to do to invite me, do you know how to do the GM list and then find me that way? If you don't, I can run you through it.
Ladders, Grandmaster.
And then I'm ranked 98.
Number 1, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. As much as me right there. That's my other account.
Cool. Yeah, got it. And then I invite to party.
Yeah, and then just host the replay, and then before you start it, just make me the lobby host when in the actual replay itself.
Okay, cool. All right, and now I'm just going to look for that replay. Cool. Okay, this is the one, and then watch with others, then promote to host.
Perfect. All right. Oh, and you got submarine, dude. First thing of coaching lesson, I would say veto this map.
Ah, okay.
Actually, I really do like every map in the pool except for this one. This map is really, unless you play like an all-inner, this map is really hard.
Gotcha. So, that might have been why I felt like it was harder than it should have been.
Yeah, it's this map just it forces you to like deal with shit perfectly, because if you don't, like, you have no time to react to anything basically. So you have to like predict what happens before it happens, and if you don't do that, you'll die. If you're playing if you're playing like a defensive macro reactionary style.
Right.
All right, so we'll just check your build out really fast, see if things are looking good. You go for a 16 hatch. 16 hatch is totally fine.
Oh yeah, and I have, well, yeah, sorry not to interrupt.
Oh, you're totally fine. Go. What's up?
Okay. I am now starting to adopt the 17, 18, 17 versus Terran, although sometimes I'd still do 16, 18, 17 by habit.
It's okay. I honestly, I would say I am super indifferent about 16 or 17. I personally like 17 better, but it's such a minor thing that you could do either one. Like, there are pro gamers that still go 16, and they're fine. Like, it doesn't throw off your build in any way in terms of like, well, now you just can't afford this when you should have afforded this and stuff like that. Like, you can still afford everything just fine, because the reason why that is because all of your larva still spawns at the same time as it normally would. Like, you can still spin it right away. You don't have to like wait on it. And like, you never larva cap. And the reason why, the only justification I can say why going 16 hatch might make sense is because it gives you a hatchery a little bit faster than a 17 hatch, which could maybe make it to where if the Terran player was going to be that kind of guy that goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over there and I'm going to put an engineering bay in his natural, and I'm just going to block the fucking hatchery. Like, you might get the hatchery down before he does that. Otherwise, it's super irrelevant either way.
Cool.
Because and for those of you who don't understand, just throw it out there really fast. A 17 against Terran specifically, a 17 hatch does not have a downside versus proxy racks. You can still deal with proxy racks just the same as you would with a 16 hatch. And the reason why is because your pool is still going down at like the same time either way. So, and like, your hatchery will be done either way before the Marines start shooting it. So you're not really getting a benefit or a negative in either way. But against like Zerg, for instance, if you go 16 hatch versus 17 hatch, Lings are actually smacking the hatchery before it's actually done if you go 17 hatch, which is a big problem because when a hatchery's building compared to when it's finished, the hatchery does not actually have armor when it's building like this, but it does have armor when it's done. So your hatchery dies so much faster when units are smacking it before it's finished, but Marines can't physically come out that fast. So
Gotcha.
16 and 17 is super irrelevant versus Terran. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever works.
Cool. And I can't remember if this one I was doing the Overlord speed thing that you were starting to do now.
Yeah. If you're not, like, it's something I just started doing very recently, and it does take a little bit of practice, I would say, to get used to it, because it's you have to rip gas off twice and not forget it, and it's during the phase of when a Marine could be chasing your Overlord at his base, a Reaper is chasing your Lings at your base, or drones, and you're trying not to get your creep killed as well. Like, it's a bit, that little weird moment in the early game gets a little overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, I was just kind of blown away by how, what I noticed too is I especially get a very delayed layer if I'm not careful, because my gas just won't, what is it? If I take it, but then forget to put them back on, or forget to take it back off and get distracted, next thing I know, it's like 6 minutes and it's like, oh yeah, I need a layer.
Yeah.
Or I'm dead.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. It's like a little bit of, that's like the thing where it's like mechanics of ZvT. Like, you can't make mistakes in this matchup. You have to be very like precise.
Yeah. I just remember being like exhausted after this game.
So, right now, your Overlord Scout. I'm just gonna throw it out there and say, if you see a Reaper cross, like whether you see it on the mini map or whether you see it physically on your screen, if you look at the Overlord when this happens, this guarantees you should go check his barracks at the ramp. The reason why is because unless it's like, you see how there's a cliff right like south where you're going to go right now. If this cliff did not exist, I would say, okay, like if it's a map that's weird like this and there's no Overlord hiding spots that are even nearby, but like I would say 99% of maps that get made always have somewhere to put your Overlord. If you see a Reaper, you can always scout the barracks without losing your Overlord. If you don't see a Reaper, it's a bit more questionable. Then I would be like, okay, maybe just chill and like see that he expanded, and you can just chill for a minute here. That's fine. Gotcha. Because if there was no Reaper, he could have 2 Marines, and if you actually went all the way to see the barracks, he could have 2 Marines go down and kill your Overlord. That is very realistic. But if you see a Reaper, that guarantees there's no Marine right now. And if you were to see his barracks right now, this tells you information in so many ways, because you can see, like, for instance, the fact that, like, if you would have still gone up, like, just look what you would have seen right now. If you would go up right now, you could see a second factory and a second depot, which would tell you that this is going to be the beginnings of potentially 1-1-1. It's probably going to be designed for Hellions. It's very unlikely that it's going to be anything besides Hellions at this point. It could be something else. It could be like Widow Mines. It could be some awkward other iteration, like maybe he wants to make a Cyclone super fast. These other things have, like, if we're talking about like percentages of happening, like with a chance of it happening, I would say just seeing this now, this is like a 90% chance or like a 95% chance that this is now going to be reactor Hellions. Which it like rules out the fact that now it's no longer going to be 2-on-1. It's no longer going to be some super awkward greed of like triple command center off of 1 Rax. It rules out the fact that it's mass Reaper. Right. Like there's
not some kind of proxy build either or anything.
Yeah, exactly. It just gives you so much more information that you really feel like it's so easily obtained, because if you saw that Reaper, even if he makes a Marine like he is, it is impossible for him to kill the Overlord if you just check up at the barracks and go, oh cool, I just saw your second depot and your factory, and then you go back to the cliff. It's impossible for him to kill the Overlord before that happens.
Gotcha.
Like even if your Overlord was at like the base of the ramp right now and the Marine started shooting it, you could still even get back to the cliff from there. You can go almost a full screen length with 1 Marine shooting you and still like get to the cliff.
Yeah, I definitely have some PTSD from being like, oh, there's a bunch of Marines and now my Overlord's dead, and I didn't even. But now I realize too. Yeah, of course, if I see the Reaper.
Like, and now I'm glad you do scouted eventually, and you're still not gonna die. Like, you're still going to get to that. Like, you still should. If you went a little bit deeper, it's questionable. I do think it would just, if you don't move your Overlord again, it will probably get back to that cliff and it will barely live. We're talking like less than 20 HP. And you saw the reacted barracks. So seeing a reacted barracks is like, it's one of those things that's like, and you got back here with 15. So yeah, they're durable is all I'm saying. So if you would have scouted a bit deeper, you would have confirmed there was a factory. But seeing a reacted barracks like this now, this is questionable if you didn't see a factory. And the reason why is because this could 100% be 2-1-1.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 2-1-1 or if it's Hellion opener, it changes things. Because if it's 2-1-1, you don't need to make lings until later because a 2-1-1 doesn't hit you until about 5 minutes, like 5:15. However, and here's the thing too is I see something like Chatizi in chat is like, I haven't seen a 2-1-1 in a long time. But meta shifts happen all the time, especially based off of tournaments. And I will throw it out there and say that I have seen, maybe it was Maru or TY, I can't remember which one did it, but someone in like the GSL recently did a 2-1-1 to Zerg, and all it takes is someone doing something like that, and suddenly, oh wow, 2-1-1s all over the ladder again. Everyone's doing it again.
I had someone 2-1-1 me a handful of times in the past week, and it was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. It's just people take the trends from tournaments so often. So just knowing that it's a 2-1-1 or knowing that it's fast Hellions is going to tell the difference of when you need to make lings. And the perfect time when to make lings is if you go for like the speedling opener like you did. If it's Hellion based, you want to make extra lings when your speed is just about done. So we're talking you're going to be making more lings about like 50 seconds from now, which is going to be around like 3:30, 3:35, whatever. Now, if he was going for a 2-1-1, you'd want to make lings about a full inject round after that because you could squeeze out another full round of drones, and you wouldn't want to make lings until probably like 4:20, 4:30.
Gotcha.
So like, because again, the thing is if it's Hellions, you want to prepare as soon as you have speed because he could totally run in his first 2 to 4 Hellions in your base if he wanted to, which some people do. They're like fucking YOLO, right? And if it's bio, if it's like 2-1-1, it guaranteed cannot attack you until right at like 5 minutes or like 5:15. And the reason why is because that's how long it takes for the medevacs to come out. Like the medevac, he's not going to just walk his Marines across the map with no medevac, because if he did that and you watched him do that with an Overlord, you could be like, well, if I surround your Marines now with Zerglings, they all just die and your whole build is pointless. So he has to wait on those medevacs, which will mean that those medevacs will pop out of his base usually around like 4:30, and he'll probably get to your base around like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Damaga, thank you for the raid, man. Welcome, guys. I'm doing a coaching lesson, but much appreciated on the raid. What's up, everybody? But yeah, so
is 5 to 5:15? Is that like if they do everything picture perfect, or would you say there's like a plus minus on that?
I would say if someone knows what they're doing, it's gonna be that's like a efficient timing. If someone's like super efficient, maybe they can squeeze out like 450. But that's like most people are not gonna be that efficient. We're talking about like players that are like 5.5, 6K MMR.
Right.
That might be able to do that. Like literally 0 seconds missed every time. But 5 is average for your I would say an average Masters player is around 5 minutes.
Cool.
You also have to consider, I guess, sometimes map size, and if it's a really tiny map, it might be a little faster just because of that. Like we're talking again 5 minutes because of that, not like the 5:15 end. But if it's like a little bit of a bigger map, more like 5:15. But yeah, the point is you just don't need to make lings. You don't need to make lings until later if you know it's 2-1-1. So just making sure you get that information if it's viable is huge.
Gotcha.
Very, very, very important. All right, and you're still making drones. I love it. The only thing you're not okay. So the one thing as well about your build defensively that I could say you could do better, in my opinion, is if you're gonna go for a third base speedling expand, you should always open up with 1 inject and 1 tumor, and you open up double inject this time. And the reason why is because you will not have first of all, there's multiple reasons. Number one, you'll never have enough money to spend all your larvae this way and also make queens. When you need to make queens if you're going to play this way. Gotcha. And the second reason is because you also have no means to protect your drones at your third base now efficiently if you have no creep connecting your third to your natural. And with the way, if you go double inject like this, you are 100% going to have an exposed mineral line at your third base that doesn't have proper creep control, because your natural will saturate so fast if you just skip creep and you skip queens and you spend all your money on larva, you will have such a fast natural mineral line saturation that you'll now be like, well, now I have to make drones for my third, and I can't protect them. So you open yourself up to so many like avenues of damage, which if you make a drone and it dies, obviously that's even worse than just not making a drone because you just wasted the money then, and your larva. So having creep makes it up to where you actually don't lose drones and also you don't lose larva, because if you don't spread creep as well, it puts more of an emphasis on your lings having to control the Hellions or whatever's going to attack you. It's most likely Hellions. But if the lings have to fight the Hellions without the support of queens because creep is not there, not only can your lings not surround the Hellions as well now because there's no creep for the lings to get surrounds on them, but the queens also are just like snails being like, wait for us. And the Hellions just like, if they keep resetting your lings, it just resets your larva because you have to keep remaking them. And it's like drones dying essentially like that too, because 2 lings dying is literally the same thing as 1 drone dying. Not because of just the fact that it costs the same amount of minerals and a larva, but it's because it prevents you from making a drone essentially. And that's what you want to make. So it's losing lings or drones are both fucking terrible at this point. You definitely want to focus a lot big emphasis on your queen if you play this way.
Gotcha.
So your ideally, I would say your queen should start like as soon as possible after you start the third base at your natural.
Okay, yeah, I think I droned a little bit, but that should probably have been the queen.
I would say it's okay to spend your initial larva. Like, spend your larva while you take your third. Your third should be going down anywhere around the range of like 28 to 30 supply. And that means you've been spending your larva well. But then as soon as you make your third hatchery, if you have like 3 larva, maybe spend it first. If you have like 4 larva, definitely spend it. If you have like 1, maybe 2, you can make the queen and then go back to spending your larva. But it's all about like you do want to get that queen out early. And then you can have your queen, the very first queen that pops out of your natural, you can honestly have that queen throw down like 2 tumors. And then have your next queen that spawns out of the natural become an ejector. And the queen that spawns first out of the natural that does 2 tumors, after it throws down like 2 tumors, you can then have that queen go to the third base just as it finishes, and it can inject the third base immediately with your next inject. So you're like, as soon as the third's done, you'll have triple injects immediately on all your hatcheries. Gotcha. And then you can keep making queens to keep progressing your creep and also queen control overall. I'll give you an example of this when I give you the example build. It'll be like the benchmark stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, that'd be awesome because I actually do really like. Now I really like building lots of lings, lots of queens. In like this kind of early part of the game. So that's great to hear. Then.
Yeah.
Getting the creep spread is going to help them for sure.
Yeah, you definitely need to focus a lot on the queen, because if you what's it called? Also your gas is a little bit messed up this game, I would say. We'll talk about that later. Like basically, you just went back on gas and you left it on and got overlord speed and then layer. If you want to do the thing I've been doing lately myself, it's a little different with your gas, because with taking gas like that and leaving it on, you'll never be able to afford making queens constantly and drones constantly and like all your larvae. So you'll have hiccups in your build and you'll end up where it'll be a situation like where you're at 6 minutes and you'll maybe be like 6 drones behind the other guy at 6 minutes because you overinvested into gas too early. And then to spin that gas, you ended up forcing other costs too early as well, like the layer and other things that you're going to use with your gas in general before you need them.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the case I was saying where it's like, crap, I messed up the overlord speed timings, and I was like, crap, just give me my layer. Yeah. I always get a little paranoid if I don't.
Also,
I guess, but yeah.
I have a tip for you really fast. Just tell me how you do this, because I'm imagining how you do it. But when you make an overlord, do you just like, you have a rally point for all your hatcheries, but do you just like go like hatcheries, make overlord, and then like do something else immediately right after?
Yeah, often what I'll do is, depending on my vision, I'll build an overlord and then I'll rally the egg to a certain area.
Yeah.
And then once I kind of have, like, kind of how I have it now, or I kind of have them at the furthest that I feel comfortable placing them, I'll just let them go to the rally point.
Okay. I would honestly say you should rally, especially if you're going to go overlord speed, you should have about 10 overlords on the map.
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah.
out of your base. And this should be like your first 10. So your number 1 and number 2 overlords should go to his base. Number 3 to 8, or sorry, 3 to 10 should go literally like here, just so you can see my pings. Go to everyone's vision in the replay really fast. And I would say, like, in the order of these pings, this is how you should place them: 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Something like that.
Oh, okay.
Like, you literally, like, alternate it, and you go to every gap, like, further down the map. Because if you have speed, you don't have to be afraid of a Viking.
Right.
Because if he has a Viking and you're like, okay, this guy's all about just trying to wipe my overlords out, you could pull back the overlords as, you know, if you're like, okay, I need to pull him back now because this dude's fucking killing overlords with the Viking. You pull him back, you get rid of the Viking, you replant them where they were. Or whatever.
I really like that.
But
Yeah,
it's if you don't have overlord speed, it's a little bit scarier to put your overlords that far out there, because if he has a Viking and you're like, shit, go home, he could still maybe kill like 3 of them, and you're like, okay, that kind of sucks. But
yeah.
it just makes it's you develop your overlord spread early, because like look how many overlords you have right now. You have 10, right? And what has happened to you so far? He's attacked you with 2 Hellions and a Reaper. Like, nothing has really happened, and you've barely lost anything. You did a good job. Like, this game so far is basically like no losses, essentially, like little pokes, but nothing major has happened. So there's no reason to like it's easy to do it now when nothing's going on. But if you were to like have like 20 overlords in a powwow in front of your natural, and it's like, we're talking, you're like 180 supply, and you're getting attacked on like 2 drops at once and over here and over there, and things are crazy, and you're like, okay, well, now I'm gonna spread overlords. It becomes way harder to do that, to just squeeze that task in at that time when shit's way crazier. But if you do it now in the development stage when nothing's happening, it's so easy just to rally an egg, rally an egg, rally an egg. And if you have vision like that, it makes future drops so easy to spot.
Yeah, that's huge, because that's definitely part of like what I was saying that I'd like to, you know, be better at, is being able to deal with like, I feel like I'm able to handle like multi-prong harass from Terran pretty well, just as just as long as I have the vision of it ahead of time. So that's actually, I can't believe I didn't think about that. Even just putting them at the edges there, that's huge.
So there's one thing as well. There's like stages. So I did tell you this is like stage 2 of overlord spreading, and realistically, I told you, like, if you want to just focus on what I just said, I would say that'd be okay for now. But the most like advanced, best version of this would actually be Overlord 1 goes to his base, Overlord 2 stays in front of your base until Overlord 3 spawns. And then when Overlord 3 spawns, Overlord 2 also goes to his base. This way you can scout for proxy bunkers and shit. In case he like puts them in front of your natural. So Overlord 1 and 2 always go to his base. Overlord 3, 4, 5 should actually be like this. What, like there, and there. Like entrances to your base so Hellions can't get in here unnoticed. But the second you have 5 queens, essentially when you have queens that don't need to be standing next to the hatchery to inject, and you can now have queens at the edge of your creep to like poke forward, and you already have active creep between all your bases, and your creep spread looks pretty decent. And now you also have speedlings like you do. Like, you feel confident in your queenling defense, essentially. You could then move those overlords that are in front of your creep spread, and you could then send them to the sides of the map while queens control the front of your base, and lings also are there or whatever. Because like it's basically like the goal is by the time you have speedlings like this, you should already have creep connecting all your bases, and you should have at least a full screen length of creep in front of your bases as well. Like, your natural and your third should both have a full screen length of creep, just as like a buffer. So like, your creep in front of your third base is very delayed. Your creep in front of your natural is good, but your creep in front of your third base is super delayed, and the reason why that is because you started tumors super late.
Right.
And then if we're talking drone count, again, a good number to aim for is like 66 by 6 minutes, and right now we're talking 57 by 6 minutes, and this is also not including Evo chambers or like Hydroden. So it's not like awful, but I would say a little bit behind, and one of the reasons why I think you're a little bit behind is because of the overemphasis of gas early and a fast layer that is, like, if you think about it, let's go back to when your layer finished, right? And let's see what has happened with the layer. Layer finishes at 5:33, and you know, it's just chilling at this point. Like you make an overseer, 2 overseers defensively, and they're chilling. You send one of them around, but I mean, if you have overlord speed, you can totally scout anyways with overlord speed. So,
right.
Like this is just one of those things where it's like you have to like question, was the layer really worth it that early? And that's one of the things where it's going to slow you down. Where if you're still making queens and you're still mining gas full on, you're not going to be able to spend your larva as efficient as you should be.
Gotcha. Yeah, what would be I don't know, it's all kind of like dependent on the game and all that, but what would be like the safest delayed layer if I were to get, you know, if I am getting harassed by Terran bio and stuff? Is there a point where I should just be like, all right, I absolutely need this layer at least by this certain time?
So
like if I'm scouting that as a macro game.
I get what you're saying. You're always going to take it basically like this. You're going to get, if you want to do the build that I'm doing, which is fine, I get Ling speed.
Totally.
I get Ling speed, I rip off gas with 2 out of 3. I take my third. As soon as I have my third, which is the big cost there for minerals, I put 2 drones back on gas. I get overlord speed, and I rip 2 back off gas again. And then if I see something with my overlords then that is greedy from Terran, which means he's got 3 production facilities or less and a 3rd command center, which is 111 3rd CC. There's not like multiple racks or multiple factories. I will then take my layer honestly off of 1 drone on gas. And basically, and the reason why is because I will not put more drones on that gas until I am fully saturated on all 3 bases, mineral-wise.
Okay. Yeah.
However, if I scout someone who does not have a 3rd command center, and instead he does have multiple racks or multiple factories, and it looks a bit more aggressive, that's going to be something more intimidating, I scout if I need to make a Bane Nest or a Roach Warren. Multiple barracks is better for Bane Nest. Multiple factories is better for Roach Warren. Then I will take my gas. The second I scout it, I'll take my gas immediately as soon as I see it. And that comes with the pacing of overlord speed. So that'll be a little bit before you're fully saturated on 3 bases. And then judging off of how much pressure you think you feel is going to happen, it's a good idea to add on either 2 more or 3 more gases. I would say if you're gonna go Ling Bane, adding on 2 more gases makes sense. If you're gonna go roaches, adding on 3 more gases makes sense to go to 4 gases or 3 gases in total. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you can take the layer the second you have 100 gas with those as well.
Okay, cool.
So your layer would be a little bit
much
faster.
better.
Yeah, and because it would be like you're scouting aggression, so you react to aggression, or you're scouting greed and you react with greed. This would allow you as well to get a 4th base really fast, because the fact that you have a 3rd command center Terran off of 111 and you're still on 3 bases is a big problem for you. You should already have a 4th base done, and you should also around 7 minutes be around 80 drones.
Gotcha.
Or like 75, anywhere between 70 and 80, but 80 would be like, that's like pristine drone count.
Okay.
But the fact that you're on 60 at 7 minutes is really, really slow. It means you're playing overly paranoid right now. Like you're just waiting for him to attack you.
Yeah. Guilty.
And it would only make sense to wait for him to attack you if he did not have a 3rd CC. Like first. If he would have went for multiple barracks or multiple factories first, it would have made sense then. But because he went 111 into a 3rd CC, any attack he could have done to you would have been under the category and like how to identify it. It would have been a harass, not an attack. It would have been like 1 medevac or like 1 liberator, like 1 medevac with stuff in it, or like 1 liberator or like 6 Hellions, not like 3 tanks and 25 Marines and like 2 medevacs and like a big push.
Right. Just trying to throw me off kilter or something like that.
Yeah, like all it would be is just like to throttle your drones, like try to kill some, like how he's doing right now with the liberator. Like the fact that he hasn't attacked you until 8 minutes and you don't have a 4th base that's fully saturated even now. This is a problem for you because what's going to happen now, if you look at the supply, you're going to scale slower than Terran. And this is going to keep happening to you more and more and more because the Terran player... The thing about Terran is, that's confusing for Zerg to deal with if you don't know how to read Terran very well, is Terran always makes army no matter what, and they always make SCVs no matter what. They're going to make both at the same time, right? It just depends on how if they're going to invest into making extra SCVs or extra army first. But they're always going to make both at the same time. You, however, as Zerg, have to pick one or the other. And you need to pick one. You need to, like, dive hardcore into one or into the other based on how much production investment your opponent's giving himself. So if your opponent invests into economy, your queens are more than enough to fuck him over. Like that's why making queens here is really important.
Ah, okay.
And if your opponent invests into more production of units, you really need to have extra units to supplement your queens, because your queens are then not going to be enough to stop it. It'll be like, we're talking about the difference of like a 12 supply army from Terran attacking you, or like a 30 supply army from Terran attacking you. Like queens are not going to stop the 30 supply army in the early game, or like a 40 supply army, but they are going to easily stop like a 12 supply army.
Gotcha.
So yeah, this is like just way too many Lingbane, and it's putting you in a situation now where it's kind of all in for you, in the sense that you're hoping that he takes a bad fight, because if he doesn't take a bad fight, you're gonna just you're already behind it in terms of like the bank, the build up, and the only way Lingbane is gonna have any effect here now is if he takes a really bad fight on creep.
Okay.
Like you're kind of missing the beat of being able to overwhelm him. So if you take a fight off creep as well, you're definitely dead. And now, so it's kind of what's happening right here. You're taking a fight that's on the edge of creep, so you're actually getting ripped off creep to take the fight. So your lings and maids are now going to take a shittier fight, because the second they're engaging, they're running off creeps, and now it's going to make Marines do more DPS for longer.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And this is just one of those things where it's like, again, it's crazy that the way it sounds, but the initial creep tumors as well that we were talking about earlier change the pace of how fast you can cover the map by a tremendous amount. Because if you think, when you have like, if you have like 6 queens or something that are spreading creep, and you can make 6 tumors all at once, that's nice. It makes your creep spread really fast at that point. But if you actually have 1 tumor that spreads like a line straight out, like really fucking fast straight out of your base, you can use the first like 2 minutes of time when you're really not spreading that much creep to just like create a path that you can branch creep off of later.
Oh, that makes, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So it just gives you like, or go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I guess that brings up a good point too, that I always kind of wonder. It's like, is the general theory of creep spread, just kind of do a beeline to the opponent's base, or is it, is there a way to do that while still getting useful vision, on in your peripherals, or, I guess a mix of them both.
You definitely want to prioritize getting your creep in as many locations as possible, as fast as possible, which means going as far away from your base as fast. Like, so for instance, if you look at like your natural, and you have the creep tumor going down the natural, that creep tumor is totally fine, the pathing you've taken with it. And then you could have other creep tumors like on the, and I would say going like up the ramp would be better, because it's more directly towards the middle of the map. And when you have extra tumors, you fill in the gaps on the sides. So you always go down the center and you fill in the sides later.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Because sides are easier to fill in later. So like, I would say it doesn't make any sense to, like, if for instance, like the tumor that goes down from your natural towards your 4th base, the fact that it went up, it's going towards the ramp is correct. However, if it went towards where like the hatchery was going to be, like if you had like a tumor go towards like the gas and the back of the mineral line, and it's covering like the side of the map, that would be incorrect, because you would cover less of the map faster that way. Because you can easily cover that later. It's easier to defend it. The harder creep to take is the harder creep to defend, which is the creep in the center of the map. Which means you should spread that first as fast as possible, so you can control it. So that pushes like this, when they push you in the center of the map, you have creep that would be all the way to like the next round of bushes, even behind where his army is. And then you could just be like, all this army, no matter how far it kites backwards, would be covered in creep. So your Lingbane would just continuously overrun the bio and make your life 10 times easier. Yeah,
you nailed it right on the head too. That makes a lot of sense. It's funny how that's how I was playing, as far as just banking off of the Terran, taking a bad engagement, and that's really not a good strategy. Because what do you do if they don't take a bad engagement? Well, that's what basically I think had happened to me once I got that promo into Diamond 1. It's like I started facing against opponents that knew how to take engagements properly, and
for sure.
It's like and I feel like it's funny how it's all kind of like clicking with me now, because I'll notice in some games I'll have trades that are kind of a wash. Like, I'll use all my units, the Terran will lose all their units, and I'm thinking to myself, oh cool, like that should be a good trade, right? Because like mine didn't cost as much. But then I realized it's like, oh wait, I'm like defenseless now, or if I'm supply blocked or something. It's,
I would say it is a good trade as long as you've read his economy correctly. Because if you have a better production aspect behind you than he does for himself, like for instance, if he takes a 3 base engagement against you and you're 4 bases, that's better for you because you can recover faster and you can just remax quicker as long as you're on top of your macro. But so like for instance, if you would have taken that fight, like the way that fight looked in the middle of the map, you obviously won that fight. And I honestly, I really would say, I think a big reason why you won that fight is because he engaged you without having combat shields, and it made his Marines die way faster to your Lings and to your Hydras. And I would say maybe, like, you know, we could talk about Terran Micro there too. Like maybe he didn't have the best initial kiting and baneling defense. Like he kind of ate some of those banes pretty hard in the beginning of that fight. That comes down to, like, you can definitely tell the difference of like a better Terran and a lesser Terran when you fight them, because you're trying to connect, and some Terrans make it so hard to do that. But like being able to reset armies is always good for Zerg, especially if you have the sense of creep control and economy control, because if you have an economy that's just powerful compared to what the Terran has, you're always going to recover faster, because like it's actually, I wouldn't say just faster, you're going to recover at a good healthy pace compared to the Terran, possibly faster. Terran can actually recover pretty fucking fast as well. That's just how Terran works nowadays. It used to be different when Larva was better, but they nerfed Larva a long time ago, and now you get less Larva in general than you used to. So Zerg doesn't necessarily just always overwhelm. Good Terrans can keep up with you. However, go ahead. I'll tell you this.
Well, I was just gonna reiterate that too. Like I noticed sometimes, like I'll have a big win in an engagement, and I'm like, okay, drone window, and maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just, again, it's just that I'm not fast enough, or maybe I'm misreading things. But I'll drone super heavy, and then it's like the Terran just marches across with another death ball. It's like, how did he, build up so fast? And I guess it's like you say, they just.
I'll tell you why that probably makes sense. I can, like, seeing from this game, I guarantee I can tell you why you're having problems with that. I'll tell you in a second though. But the first thing I was going to say was. When you both reset each other's armies, the biggest thing of all that does for you is it gives you creep windows. Like if you lose his if he loses his army, you lose your army. You're both in that process of rebuilding. Your creep can easily spread across the map again because there's nothing happening. So it just gives you more control of everything. So it's actually advantageous for Zerg to take trades like that. It always feels good. As long as you can shove the creep, you're winning the game. And then the other reason why, sometimes if you go, oh, I killed an army. Like, we reset armies where I lost my army, he lost his army, and now I have a drone window. You might be in a situation where maybe you didn't scout, like, for instance, this game, where you were making mass Lingbane, and your opponent went for a 1-1-1 third command center, and he had 72 SCVs or something to your, like, 60 drones. Like, that's rough, and you're in the situation where you're, like, for 3 minutes straight, you're just making Lings and Banes, Lings and Banes, Lings and Banes. Now you're making Hydras. And he is making SCVs and work, SCVs and army, SCVs and army, SCVs and army. He pushes you. You guys have a wash, but he has a better economy now than you do. And after that, like, and he's making army and SCVs at the same time, all the time. And you then go, well, I just made army for like 3 minutes off of a lower economy than he had, and then I lost everything. But now since I killed his army too, now I can have a drone window. But he's able to recover faster because he's already had a better economy than you have early on because you played Paranoid for 3 minutes. And then while you make drones, all those units he made while he took the fight, because he's still making army the whole time, he pushes you again really fast, and then you're like, oh fuck, I just made drones, and now I'm gonna die. It's because you spent like 3 minutes making Lings and Mains hoping he attacks you, and he never did, and you made those off of a lower drone count than you should have had. So for like 3 minutes you were mining like 1,000 minerals less than you should have made, so you're like 3,000 minerals in the hole to where you could have been.
That's super useful. I need to that's the type of stuff that I was looking to see what needed to be fixed, because it's definitely a mindset, I think. As far as what I could or should be improving on, it's that it's not that I'm super paranoid, but it is like paranoid enough where it puts me behind, or puts me out of advantage.
That's what the build I'm going to show you in a second, where I'll give you a benchmark. That's what it'll help you kind of distinguish. You'll be like, okay, well now I know what to look for at this point in time. And based on what I see, I know how to react, and we'll go into that. We'll like go into detail about how to react to it. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'll give it to you in a bit more of a more explanation, basically.
Cool, cool.
And then it'll give you ideas on how to like play the game out. And it'll the biggest one of all is it'll give you timings on when and where you should be at what time, like if you're playing efficient.
Yes, that sounds awesome.
All right, and then at this point now, I would say honestly, I feel like you're gonna win the game only because you've destroyed his third base. You now saturated a fourth base. He didn't take like the game has been reset enough to the point to where you now you're in a position now where you have a better economy, and you're taking defensive fights on creep, and you have more supply. Like all these things are pluses for Zerg, so the chances of you running his army over at this time are even higher, and the chances of you continuing to maintain control are also high because you have all the other advantages going for you already. So if you take this, when you take this fight, I 100% see you winning the fight, which you do. And yeah, now he's going Widow Mines, which are super annoying. Fucking hate Widow Mines.
Yeah. I'm weirdly enough, I'm not as freaked out about Widow Mines now as I used to be, except for stupid Widow Mine mineral line drops. Yeah. But yeah, just being able to send like a Zergling over, and as soon as I see a Widow Mine on the map, I never send my whole army like direct A move to their base. I'll always just send one Ling, you know, before, and then I'll send them all. But yeah, they friggin' suck, man.
Another thing you can do against Widow Mines, if it ever does become a problem where this guy is just making like mass Widow Mines and he's just eating you alive, what you can do is you can add in either Broodlords or Lurkers, and both of those make mass Widow Mine styles they just fall apart. And I would say if you have access to it, Broodlord is better, and here's why. Your style is melee Carapace, and ideally you're gonna go all the way to 3/3, which you are. You have ultras. If you go Broodlord, you only have to make like 6, literally, like 5, 6 Broodlords, and you can stop. If the guy is going mass Widow Mines and you have Broods, you set off Widow Mines on himself because of Broodlings. You kill Widow Mines, but the biggest thing of all is you probably will force Vikings, especially in Diamond League. I guarantee you'll force, like 9 out of 10 turns you play against, I bet will go Vikings. The one random guy who's like, I can handle ghosts. Maybe he'll go ghost, but a lot of people will probably go Viking. And if they go Viking, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I killed all your Widow Mines, and now you have like 12 Vikings, and all my Broodlords just died. Just go right back into a full Ultralisk army, and then he will probably die.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Broodlords are... I definitely need some more practice with them, and I guess what I mean by that is not losing them so easily. I'll build Broodlords, and I just think I put them into danger too quickly, I think.
Yeah. Someone says don't turn go Thor versus Broodlord. That's if you're going mech. If we're talking about bio, no, not really. Because there'll be 0/0 Thors at that point, and Lings will just wreck the shit out of them at that point. But so for like Broodlord, all you gotta do is, I would say, if you have like 5 of them or something, or 6 of them, put them in their own control group, and then tell an Overseer to follow them. Like just have an Overseer right click on a Broodlord.
Right.
And it'll make the Overseer just auto follow it repeatedly. And if you A move your Broodlords and you have your rest of your ground army nearby, you can have the Broodlords A move, and they will never fly into a Widow Mine as long as they're close together, because the Overseer will give vision further than a Widow Mine will attack a Broodlord.
Nice. That's sick. Okay.
So it makes it to where like you're not like, Broodlords A move, and you look back at him and you're like, oh fuck, back up! Oh, I just flew over 5 Widow Mines. Oh god, everything's dying.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just some ideas, but overall, I understand your style. You're just basically going Ling Bane Hydra into the potential of Spire and
yeah, it's very B2GM, inspired.
Yeah,
inspired. I mean, that's what it is.
I think it's a good build overall. I like it. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that game really fast, and I'll make a new game with you, and then tell me whatever you want to tell me. Go ahead, tell me, boy. What do you want to tell me?
Cool. I was gonna say, yeah. I go into. I kind of feel like maybe this is how it used to be or not, but in ZvT now, mostly I just try to get into Ultra Ling, Ultra Mass Queen for the transfuses, and I'll also go into Corruptor. But I think it was just yesterday you had a good point about going Muta rather than Corruptor. So yeah, that's kind of like my end game.
I would say once you're like Masters League, Mutas would be more appropriate for now. Like I would say for now, once you get really comfortable with Hydras, then you can maybe try adding on Mutas. But I would say try going Hydras first. And I'm gonna give you I'm going to give you a Hydra example as well. I guess cool. I'll just do Submarine. Fuck it. Oh, you know what? No Submarine. It's a bad veto that.
That map's getting vetoed.
Veto
right
that
now.
map. Yeah, I'll do a different map. I was debating on what map I wanted to do, but yeah, I would say just do Hydras for now because Mutas are actually they require a lot more effort on your part, especially if the Terran player plays Widowmine heavy. You have to work your ass off to make Mutas work properly.
Yeah.
But if they go Widowmines and you go Hydras, Widowmines are kind of a joke. You're like, I have Hydras that can outrange you. I feel okay about everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
that.
Go ahead.
I was just say that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna pause the game when we scout, and I'm gonna explain what you would react to based on what you scout, and we'll go from there. But you'll have like again, this build is just gonna basically be a benchmark for you to like look at everything and see how it all goes.
Cool. Funny enough, I had this map vetoed for some reason, and now I don't think I want to veto it anymore.
Oh, I mean, it's up to you. This map is one of the maps I would say is hard to recover on if you fall behind. It's hard to like establish control of the map after you're Bane and natural if you don't have control of the middle of the map. So it's like good and bad. It's like it's good if you do have control, but it fucking sucks if you're behind.
Well, I kind of like the third at the right. It seems to be one of the closer thirds of the map pool.
It's just really
and of course,
exposed
me
in
being a
terms
macro.
of with like surface area and like the cliffs and stuff, you can abuse it with lots of stuff. And so if you don't have the ability just to straight up take an engagement and your opponent gets to pick apart at you, it can be kind of hard to deal with.
Ugh, yeah.
But I don't veto this map. So it's up to you. I mean, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, it's okay. All right, so we are going to take our natural. We're scouting ahead. Second Overlord's going to stay in front of our natural. We're chilling. And then...
Oh.
Go ahead. What's up?
Well, I was going to ask, too, as far as upgrade timings, in like a macro game that I would be playing, is it correct to take Evos when you start your lair and then just...
No, too early. This way too
no?
early.
Okay.
I would say that's only good versus like 2-1-1 if you want to like hard counter that. But against standard, like everyday builds from Terran most of the time, even if it's 2-1-1, it could still work against that too. I would say just do this because what I'm about to say, because it's you just don't do too many builds where it's like so confusing in every way. Like try to keep it simple. Take your gases, or when you take your gases, whenever that's going to be, if it's going to be like when you're like good on saturation of your mineral lines, when you're 3 bases, that's when you're going to take your Evo chambers. So we're talking like around probably like 6.5 minutes roughly is when you're probably take Evos, or like 6 minutes.
Okay, cool.
On an average game. Okay, so we have drone 20 going to the 3rd. We have other stuff going to other bases, whatever. All right, I'm gonna pause it just because there's so much stuff I want to explain, and I don't want to like just go ahead of everything really fast. So at this point right now, this is when, if you saw a natural, and you saw a Reaper, all the things we talked about, you'd want to scout, see what tech he's going for, get a read on it if you can. If you can't, if there's like a Marine first, you could just go to the cliff right away. That's fine. Usually when people go Marine first, it means they're going to probably tech hard, or they're going to be very fucking greedy, and you're going to find that out soon with Overlord speed anyways. And you can also base this off of, if they're going to be greedy, a lot of times they'll probably also try to wall off the front of their base and maybe even make a bunker. If they're not going to be greedy and they're going to go tech heavy, they probably will focus less on defense. It's hard to read from the bunker alone. There's so many things you could read about it, but if someone's going to expand and they're not going to make Reaper, they're just going to straight up make Marines, it's probably going to be tech. I would say, again, it's like one of those things where it's probably 80% or 90% of the time it's going to be gas-based. Like, they're going to go fast factory and maybe fast starport. They're just going to skip the Reaper for the gas cost. It's probably not going to be just straight up gasless 3 command centers, because that dies to like every all-in possible.
Right.
So that's what you should probably expect. But again, Overlord speed will tell you that. It's just this is that point in time when you're going to scout his base with your Overlord, and go from there. And the one, and then just that's normal. You're gonna do that, and then now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into zergling speed. We're gonna go into taking our third base, and we're gonna go into spinning our larva and all that stuff. So the build as so far as is will just be normal from this point, but it's just obviously at this point you want to focus on that scout. Give yourself a bit of a read if you can, because it tells you if you can be greedier or not with your drones. Because if you do make mass lings early against 2-1-1, like when you would have defended Hellions, it's really bad. And if you make lings way too late, as like you would have made them against Marines, if it's 2-1-1, and you make them really late, and now suddenly 6 Hellions drive in your base, and you have 4 lings, and that's it. That's really bad because then you're gonna lose a lot of drones.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So that's kind of an important scout, and if you don't get the scout properly, just revert to how you would deal with Hellions. Like if your Overlord is not able to get the scout off because you think it's going to die and you just hide it and you're like, okay, well now I'm not sure, just do the 4 lings opener against Reaper and then make like 10 more lings when speed's about to finish and just play as if it were Hellions, because chances are it's probably going to be that. So if you're blind at the early stage, that's probably what it's going to be. Because that's not the end of the world if you end up making lings and it is going to be 2-on-1. At that point, it's just don't. The point I'm trying to make here is I just want you to have an idea of what you should look for. So you're not just always like massing units being like, I don't know, I don't want to die right now. Something could happen.
Yeah. Because that's definitely what I do. I think, and even one of the questions that I kind of had coming into this was, I'm pretty familiar with, make the first round of lings when speed's about to finish. But then I don't know if it's a matter of me kind of studying up on my, opponent timings to know to build like that second wave of units or not. But yeah, definitely when to start pumping units out is kind of an ever changing thing to me. And yeah, of course it's going to depend on scouting. It's going to depend on the matchup and stuff. But yeah, that's like definitely in line with what I think I need to learn more of.
All right, so you're the referee. Yeah, good. That's good. So you're the referee, and you're the one who has to resume the game. I can't resume it myself.
Okay, cool.
So whenever you're ready, just do it. I'm going to be going for a third and going for speed and all that stuff.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so I got speed. I made drones. And we see the Marine. We just back up to the cliff. It's fine. We'll just assume that this is like a normal build. And we have a drone at our third base that's ready to go. We spent all of our larvae first down to like 0 or 1, and at this point now it's putting us in the range of 28 to 30. Wherever you stop in that range, I would say is fine. And now we're gonna go ahead and throw down our third base, inject the main, tumor the natural, and go back to making larvae first again. Make larvae, like just spin larvae again down to like to point where you have like 1 or 2 again. So we're gonna go down to the point where we have 2, and now we're gonna make a queen, and after the queen we make an overlord. Because we want to prioritize that queen first.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And now we're making overlord. And then now we'll go ahead and put 2 drones back on gas. We'll go back to 100 gas. And overlord's going to spawn soon. We have a creep tumor finished. Another one starts. So now we have multiple tumors going out at the natural. This is super, super, super strong here. And now we have gas for overlord speed. We take 2 drones back off gas again. Get overlord speed in the main. And now send our queen to our third. That just made 2 tumors. And this is the hardest part of the build, just to get that part down where you're like, shit, okay, this feels overwhelming to a degree.
Yeah.
And then now we can make queen at the third, queen at the natural, and we're good. And now we can also make lings here as well as soon as our supply opens up with that third base, because we're kind of pushing to the limit here. Okay, now we make lings, and we make a queen at the third. And let's just pretend. Okay, so I'm going to pause it right now. One more time, and this is when you're getting ready to scout. If you see a third command center, if you've already seen one, that's wonderful. Maybe he built it at the wall in front of his natural and you saw it already. If you have not seen it yet, if you see it soon, this is when you go fucking drone crazy. You fully saturate 3 mineral lines, and you do not take any more gas until fully saturated on 3 bases. You can start droning for now. You can start droning for now. And if you see in his base, instead of a third command center, because we're not going to be fully saturated like right this second. It takes time to build the drones, right? So we can like fully saturate all the way to like full saturation if it's a third command center. And while just making queens. If you don't see a third command center and you see multiple racks or multiple factories, this is that time when if it's multiple racks, you can make a few more lings because you're getting ready to deal with 2-1-1 or like bio pressure in general. You can throw the layer and also throw it on your bane nest. Fully saturate your main gas again in your main base. Take 2 more gases as well. So you're running off of 3 gases with a baneling nest and a layer. That's how you deal with bio. And you get ready for a 2-base timing because that's what it's going to be. So
Gotcha.
the point of that being is this is where I would say a good drone point to stop would be. Right now I have 34 drones. Okay. So if you went for 3, if you're going to deal with a 2-1-1, like not, if you're going to deal with bio in general, a good timing to go for would be maybe ramp up your ling count if you know it's going to be 2-1-1 and you're still making, like, because again, you're not going to see it right at 359. I just want to make sure you know that. But you're getting ready to go into that phase. You're going to probably see it by like 430, roughly. Like 430 to 440. Yeah. So if you see a 2-1-1, you switch gears right then and you go into mass lings. Because at that point, you're probably going to have like 47 drones, 48 drones. Something like that. And you're going to have, 3 gases going and the rest of your drones are minerals and you're making ling bane. You're going to have some banes to supplement, but like mostly ling and queens and shit like that. And then you're fine. And you deal with the timing. And then once you kill the timing, that's your drone window and you go back into making drones. And you fully saturate your bases and stuff like that. And then again, if you scout, okay, now he's making a 3rd command center. You take a 4th base. If you scout, he's just making more racks again and he's going full on fucking all in again. You can still take a 4th base, but you do not saturate it. You just stay on 3 base economy and you focus on units and kill him again. And if you kill him again, that's another drone window where you then could take your 4th base of drones because you could easily saturate 1 round of larva to your 4th base and you're good to go. That's how that goes.
Awesome. That's gold. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
And if you scout, so then if we're going to switch gears here, and let's say we see factories, and it's just keep in mind, if you see 1-1-1, it's always making drones and queens. So let me say that one really fast, just in case you're confused, and anyone who's like confused about listening right now. If it was 1-1-1 and there was a 3rd command center, which is usually what a 3rd command center pairs with, it's super common. If it's that, you can get away with the lings you have right now. You can still make either a bane nest or a roach horn, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Either one works in that situation at that point in time. If you see it's 1-1-1, you're still making queens, which will help a lot. You can drone all the way off of 1 drone on gas to 3 fully saturated mineral lines, and then keep making drones to go into more gases on drones, like more drones for gases, and then now you're fully saturated on everything, and then you can go into whatever you want to do at layer, which for you is it's gonna be a bane nest for you, which means you're gonna go into ling bane hydra. Now, but if you scout him again and he goes into mech, do you still go ling bane hydra against mech? Just out of curiosity.
When it comes to mech, I usually just try to go into roach hydra. I try to get the scout, of course, first. I know it's not ideal. I think my general plan is to just get up, just try and do like some kind of 2-2 push, or try to deny as many expos as possible.
That's fine.
And then cross my fingers.
So if
I'm still kind of working out.
That's fine. So I would say for you, just open up. If it's 1-1-1 and it's not fully committed yet to anything, just open up as if it's going to be ling bane hydra with a good economy. And if you scout, oh, he's going mech transition, just add in a roach horn, stop making ling bane, and go into roach hydra, and you'll be fine. And then do your versus mech style that you like to do.
Gotcha.
So that's what you would do if it's 1-1-1. It's drone heavy as fuck because it's a 3rd CC. And like, especially if you can, like, you have to confirm the 3rd CC though. If you don't confirm a 3rd CC, if you do not confirm a 3rd CC, and you see like instead of now we're talking 1-1-1 with like a fusion core, and he's making battle cruisers and mass hellions or something like that, then I would say that goes into the mech territory, because again we're not talking about any bio units at all. That's just pure straight up vehicles at that point. I would say you probably honestly, you would want to make a roach horn then and just have queens and roaches, and you'd be fine. And like spores. Same thing with banshees. You'd be fine. Like if it's Hellion Banshee or a Hellion BC, either way. So third CC is the indicator here for your standard build to go into effect. And it does pair almost all the time with 1-1-1 builds. It's so common. So hopefully that makes sense so far. And the final thing you should see is factory heavy builds. So if you scout someone and you're like, oh cool, he's got double factories or triple factories already, he's probably going battle mech or something like that. That would be go to 4 gases in my opinion, right? And so don't stay on 3 like you would with the Ling Bane. Go to 4 instead. So with this one, you're gonna have probably between 45 and 46 drones, and you're gonna have 4 of those gases running with a roach horn right away, and it gives you access to having fast roach speed, fast mass roaches if you need to, and then you can go into, if it's still mech from there, you can go into your anti-mech style.
Cool.
So that's what you like. All those things. And again, you'll have the VOD for this because I'll post it. I'll also link it to you in Discord.
Yeah.
So you'll always be able to see it. So if it's confusing and you're like, what did you say to do again? This is a key part of the video to like go back and always watch over and be like, what should I aim for again? But this game, what the example I'm going to give you here is probably the one you're going to deal with the most, which is going to be a third command center. I'm just going to give you the third command center example because I would say that's going to happen probably 75% of the time, just the majority. All right, so whenever you're ready, go ahead and resume it, and this is going to be the third CC example here.
Cool. Here we go.
All right, so I'm making queens at my bases. I have overlords going in front of my bases with the creep spread. I'm still spreading creep, all that stuff, making drones. And my overlord speed is now done, so this is that point when we're like, cool, let's run through his base. And this is when you would read, oh, third CC, that's sick. I like to see my third CCs. Again, we're assuming that's what he would have done. And we're just crazy, like doing crazy saturation on our economy. And just remember, your economy last game, you were at 60 drones at 7 minutes. Remember that. So if you benchmark this build to your build you just played, you'll see the difference of where you could be at a certain time. This is kind of just what happens if you prioritize your minerals like heavily and you don't go for like a fast layer and shit like that. Okay, so now you can see I still have 100 gas though. So I am still going to take a layer, but I'm doing it off of 1 drone on gas at this point. And now we have fully saturated 3 mineral lines. And now all I did to make it easy is I just re-rallied my main to my main and my natural to my natural. And I'm still making drones. And as I oversaturate, I now take gases.
Gotcha. I have a question about that because the way that I have it set up is I just like set my hatches to rally to the newest expo, but
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I know what you're saying. I just want to pause it so we can explain this without getting kind of carried away.
Sure.
That is correct. That's exactly how I saturated all my mineral lines. But the reason why I'm not doing 1 base by 1 base by 1 base is because we're taking gas after all of our mineral lines are saturated. So if we do it this way, where I just re-rally my main to my main, natural to natural for now, just for this setup, it means I'm going to oversaturate all 3 of my mineral lines. And I'm going to rip off the mineral lines that have like 20, 22, 23 and put drones on the gases then. But this is faster than just having like, you know, drones in every base, build new gases, and then I have like 10 drones that need to be resaturated all on just the 3rd base because or like if I'm like having everything go to 1 base at a time, it kind of fucks it up in a way where if I'm like, okay, I'm going to send 6 drones to my main, and then I'm going to, that's it, and then I'm going to send 6 drones to my 3rd, and then that's it, and I'm going to send 6 drones to my natural, I'm going to have like drones coming from every direction being like, okay, drones in the main, go to the 3rd, and now go back to the main, and now go to the natural. It's just like wasting so much time for your drones to go everywhere. So we did a mineral focus, which is why we did do that with the mineral focus. I fully saturated the main, and then I fully saturated the natural, and then I fully saturated the 3rd. I didn't just leave them the whole time.
Right.
But then
awesome. I was wondering about that. Yeah, I was like.
But from now on,
okay, cool.
From now on, from 4th base, 5th base, 6th base, it will rally like that. And builds that don't have crazy mineral focuses like this, builds that go like maybe 2 base layer focus, they do work the exact way we're talking about. Like how it's like you rally everything to the next base and then to the next base, like all the time, gases included. This one's just unique in the way that we just did it because it's like a alternated build where you focus 100% on minerals, which is how we did do that exact sequence before, and then it goes into all gas explosion all at once. So we can just rip off the mineral lines themselves if we're still cranking drones out by having drones walk 1 inch from the mineral line or from the hatch rate to the mineral line, and then you can strip off those and free saturate the gas. That way, instead of having drones go from the main all the way to the 3rd to saturate the gas. And so on and so on.
Yeah, that's I can see how that can add up to being able to just send them over to that.
Yeah, and this is the only time it happens, is when you do like mineral focused crazy builds like this. This build's gonna explode super fast. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to take a macro hatch. I'm going to take a 4th base. I'm going to take my tech, and I'm going to take all of my upgrades. All this stuff is going to happen all together once I have the proper economy. And so I'm going to build all my buildings. I'm going to have fully saturated 3 bases, and I would not saturate my 4th until one of 2 things happened. Number 1 is I spotted a 3rd command center, and I knew there was not going to be pressure. Like, because he's going for a 3rd CC. It's not going to be an all-in, essentially. It's just going to be harass if he attacks me. So that's one sign. The other sign would be I would not saturate my next base until he threw an army away. The drone window we talked about before.
Right.
So if my opponent does not attack me and does not have a 3rd CC, I could still take the 4th base, but I would make army and creep spread until he pushed. Because if he doesn't push and he's on 2 bases and I'm on 3 bases, I'm still winning the game anyways. And I'm going to run his army over when the push happens. And you can periodically, at that point too, still always scout his base every like 45 seconds or every 30 seconds, every minute, and be like, what are you doing? Are you just taking like a delayed 3rd? Like, what is happening? And you're like, why are you not pushing me? If you're confused about why he's not attacking you yet. And if you're like, okay, well, I've been making army for the last like 2 minutes while you've been making army for the last 2 minutes. And look at, now you have a 3rd CC. How about now that you're doing that, I have enough army that even if I do take a drone window now, I could still get away with it and go back into making units again after. And I can then go, well, you're investing into a 4th. How about I just make a round of drones for my 3rd, or for my, he's making a 3rd, so I can make a round of drones for my 4th, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. I played someone who, he was a Terran, and at the end of the game, we were like whispering each other, just kind of having a good convo about how the game went. And he thought I was going for Roach Hydra, and I thought he was going for some other build, and our signals were totally crossed. And it's just interesting to realize that your opponent doesn't always, you have to remember your opponent doesn't see what you see. And it created such a weird game, because it was like I'm scouting him and he's reacting to what he thinks I have, which wasn't what I had, and it was really weird. I think the weirdest thing is you can study up on timings and builds from your opponents as much as you want, but if people don't follow them as they're built, you could get a total misread of a situation. Like if someone puts, if they want to expand but they just build their command center late or something, you could think that they're going for an all-in or vice versa. And I just kind of noticed that.
It's that moment where like you meta yourself instead of getting actually meted by your opponent, and you're like, he's probably doing this, and you're like, oh wait, no he wasn't. Shit.
Exactly.
All right, and from this point on now, so like I said, I'm gonna deal with this as if this guy's gonna play standard. Okay, so like I'm expecting a 3rd CC, and this is gonna be. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna fully saturate all 3 bases, take all my tech, take my 4th, take a macro hatch. I'm going to make one more round of units, like one inject cycle into a round of units, because this is going to then deal with the next ramped up evolution of what Terran could push you with at that stage of the game. And then I will saturate my 4th base, and then it's pure units from that point on. So it's like covering the stages of when Terran could push you if they decide, you know what, it's time to hit that pull the trigger and just go.
Yeah.
All right, so whenever you're ready, let's do it.
Cool. Here you go.
Okay, and so I'm making drones still. My layer's halfway done. Creep is being spread like a madman, so that we can focus heavily on everything here. And now he's doing a weird attack. It doesn't really matter. If this kind of shit happens, you'd have like the queens themselves alone are going to be so strong here to be able to deal with this, as you can see. Like queens don't give a shit. And now we're good. We killed that, so now we can go back to our main, saturate the gas, go to our natural, saturate the gas. Go to our 3rd, saturate the gas. And now I still have great saturations on all my bases in general. And now in our main base, we can go double Evo, macro hatch, Hydra Din. I would say the only thing I did kind of mess up though was my Bane Nest. I did kind of skip that. You should be taking the Bane Nest after you start the layer with your first 50 gas. So don't forget that. Okay. I kind of forgot that this game because I just kind of skipped it, but that is important. But now I'm now going to make a safety round of units. I'm going to make, this is when you should be making Banes. When you make the next round of units, you should add some Banes to it too, so that's kind of late on that regard. But it's fine, whatever.
Yeah. And that was like, I think you said the ratio you want is like 20% Banes. right? To like
yeah, roughly.
to
Like
Ling or
I would say
something.
like 2/3 Ling, 1/3 Bane.
or 2/3. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Now we're just still
Cool,
spreading
cool.
creep. Now we just made a little bit of a round of units, so we have a good amount of Ling Bane here. Just maybe like 12 Banes and like 30 Lings or something. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be exact. And so it's just enough to like make sure we feel okay. And we're going into all of our upgrades: melee, carapace, Hydra upgrades, macro hatch, all this stuff. Once you get a macro hatch, I highly consider, or I highly recommend you rip off 2 queens of your injecting queen, or of your creep starting queens. This is going to be very useful. You send 1 to the new 4th base, and you send 1 to the macro hatch. This is going to allow you to actually use your economy, and now you make a round of drones. I just went to 87 drones, and now I'm going to make a couple gases at my 4th, and we're good to go. If you can do what I just did here, where all we're doing is spreading creep, we made the safety round of units after our 3rd base. We quickly went back into drones to finish off, and now we're going units all day. We just made a round of 16 Hydras, which is a healthy amount. I would say around 20 is like perfect. But we're just cranking now. Just unit production all day here. And if our opponent were to attack us, the better our creep spread is, the easier the attack will be to deal with. And the more units we have, obviously, the easier the attack will be to deal with. And we have 2 queens now left over from like the standard build we just did. And what these 2 queens are is they are creep replacers at this point. We're not really spreading too many new active tumors that are like going in new directions. But if the Terran were to scan my creep, I could then use those queens to replace what died, while I zone him out with my army and push him away. And now we can go into a, at this point now we can go into a infestation pit because we're about to start 2-2. And I would say, as a general rule of thumb, as soon as the infestation pit starts and you start the hive, you should pair that with a lurker den and a spire, in case you want to go into broodlords or in case you want to go into lurkers later. But for now, it's all Lingbane and Hydra.
Gotcha.
And then you can get overlords as well. You can, again, through this phase too, if you're confused as like what the hell he's doing, you can scout through his base. We just started 2-2, so now we're gonna start our layer with it. We can rip off drones to another base because main's mining out, so we can also take another base. We can even like double expand here. As well. It doesn't really matter. Like, just make sure you always have economy able to like rotate your drones to, because Nashville's probably also gonna mine out soon.
Yeah. It basically, try and take bases as trades happen, or
it's really based
like
off your economy. It's not based off trades. So take take bases as your bases start having
money.
like patches getting depleted.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that way I can send drones to them if I'm getting attacked. Or something.
And all I've been doing so far this whole game is my army just kind of just chilling to my creep. I'm spreading overlords around here and there. I should honestly have spread them a little bit more than I did, like I kind of told you to do. And this is kind of stuff where I'm saying like this matchup is like it never ends in how fucking much you feel like you have to do. It's very mechanically demanding. So
yeah, I've had to straight up take like 5-10 minute breaks or so after some ZvT matches because it's like holy crap.
It's super demanding. So like it's something you can always improve on. But if you can do what I just did in this benchmark, you're gonna feel so fucking good. Like if you just always refer to this and be like, how much did he have at this time? How much did he have at that time? It's gonna feel great. And now from here, it's just you could just literally do Lingbane, Hydra. Never. The best way to use the army I would say would be never let him take new bases. Always kill his expansions. And if you can do that while just shoving your creep further and further and further into his face, you're gonna win the game, because he will run out of money.
Yeah, that was another thing that I'm having to work on too, is just keeping patient and making sure to take good engagements on creep, not rushing into it. Like I've thrown so many games by like just being so hard-headed and being like, I want to take out that natural, and then siege up, and it just wrecks me.
Check this out too. How much larva do I have right now? I probably have like 50 or 60, I bet.
39, 40, 42.
Okay, the next round, okay, when it pops up.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's about 50.
Okay, so like this is like having this many queens, 5 queens injecting is gonna make your larva insane.
Holy crap.
So and it keeps going. This is why I was saying like it's good, because you don't need all your queens making tumors at this stage of the game. Like your creep is already kind of self-sufficient with this many active tumors. So if you have that many injectors going on, if you take a fight where you're just like, okay, well that was the worst fight of my life, or let's just say we'll pretend like I'm like, oh god, that fight was really bad, and everything just dies here, whatever. You can just insta fucking remax.
Right, because I've got the bank and the economy to do it.
Exactly. So it's, and you're like, again, at this point too, you should always be definitely trying to make sure you're resaturating new bases that need to be saturated properly. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where you have the like, and we just used a lot of our gas in making those veins, but whatever. But you could go into 3/3 upgrades. You go into Spire upgrades. I would recommend a Carapace for Spire if you're gonna go for Broodlord style. Lurker upgrades, Ultra upgrades, gives you tons of options against things you need. Like Lurkers are good against Widowmine heavy Terrans. Lingbane Ultra is just good in general. Broodlords are good also against Widowmine Terrans. And you can just be like, cool, I'm just gonna spend all my larvae right now. Let's go ahead and spend it all and see what we get. And we just made 81 eggs of Zerglings all at once. And you're still injecting your bases, so it's the remax potential is fucking crazy. It's very high. And this is going to allow you to like flood Terrans over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and that's like 100% what I need. Makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. Now I have kind of a tertiary question. It's like on the subject of having queen groups. So the way I do injects is I basically just add every queen that I make onto the same key, onto my 3 key. And I do space V click all the way around. I don't do the, hold shift and have it auto do that. So I don't get too many running around queens. Yeah. But how do you feel about that method of injecting?
As long as it doesn't take you too long. I would say that that method's probably going to take you a little bit of time. I don't think it's going to be super fast. But any method that injects that you don't take more than like 2 seconds in total to inject your hatcheries every time you want to do it is okay.
I have it done pretty well. It's like as far as like
because like right now what I'm using is camera hotkeys, and if I were to inject right now, if I'm going to inject all 5 hatcheries, I'm going to literally click my 4th hatch, by the way, with the queen at it. And if you really want to do it, you could literally do this too. You could actually add a second. If you ever find yourself having a problem, you could always add in multiple hatcheries in the same base, by the way. Just add in another hatchery in your main base and add another queen to it. So you can be like easily on one screen, just inject. But I will go ahead and inject.
That makes sense.
I'll inject right now all 4 bases that I have with all my hatcheries. So all 5 hatcheries I'm injecting are going to all be injected. And I'll just do 1 inject per each hatchery. And I'm going to start like right now. I'll do it. Inject, and I'm done. Right. So like if you can do it that fast, like that's super fucking fast, I would say. Just that's not like diamond equivalent. But if you can do that, I'm going to give you what my opinion would be a diamond equivalent, okay? Now I'm going to give you, in my opinion, would be, if you can do this fast, diamond would be okay. So inject. You're done? That's diamond. If you can do it that fast,
cool.
Anything that's remotely close to that, that's fine.
Cool.
Just don't be the guy that goes like, shit like this where you're like, or like you're doing this for like 4 seconds, 5 seconds, you're like, okay, I think I got them all. Okay, we're good. That takes way too long, and you're like, okay, bro, like it's gonna take you a little too much time to get this shit going down.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I do it about that fast because I make sure that like the mouse crosshair, appears because I've selected like the spell cast and everything. But yeah, totally.
Out of curiosity, what's your mouse scroll speed, or your screen scroll speed rather? It's like how fast is your screen scroller on screen?
Well, as far as like an in-game setting.
Yeah, you just go to options, go to gameplay or mouse and keyboard, and then it's the one in the middle that says keyboard scroll speed. Or no, it's drag scroll speed.
Oh, drag scrolls. Oh, I have it at 20%.
I would say do it to 50. Put that shit to 50.
Okay. Yeah.
Because 50 is what I use, and if you look at my stream, that's like how fast it goes. It makes it super easy to get shit going as well. Like if you ever have to like drag a little bit, it'll feel a bit jarring at first, but 20%'s like much slower.
Actually, it feels pretty good. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's good.
It helps with microing a lot too, in general.
Yeah.
Because if you have like multiple screens of like width of micro, like if you're flanking and shit, it helps a lot at setting up a fight a lot faster.
Right. Or even just going between like your main and your natural or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like if you're injecting like that, because if you don't use camera hotkeys, I imagine you're gonna do that a bit. So like if I'm not gonna use camera inject hotkeys, like I'll do a drag scroll this time with it. Okay, this is just straight up dragging. So if I'm gonna inject again, this is how fast I can inject. If I'm at my main base, I go inject. I just injected all my bases on the whole bottom side of the map just now. That took about probably like 2 to 3 seconds. So it's not that bad.
Cool.
All right, dude. Well, that's kind of it for like, you know, the generalized ZvT.
Mm-hmm.
Just at this point, it's like I said before, the game plan for you honestly should be trying never let the Terran to take new bases. You don't always have to break his existing bases. Just I would say don't let him take a new base. It's gonna happen. And if you break him at a new base, then you can push his existing bases. This way you're gonna always develop good banks, and you're not always like. Basically, the point I'm trying to make here is if he has a 4th base, don't attack his natural. Like, don't just be like, oh, time to kill the natural again. Like, always attack the most exposed base. It gives you the best chance of winning the fight.
Yeah.
And then if the Terran's really, 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 really turtly, and you cannot fucking break into his base, don't be afraid to add in an option of a Nidus Worm, and also either that or Broodlords. And the reason why that makes a lot of sense is because if you add a Nidus Worm in, I'll give you one last cool tip, okay? You might use this. Check this out. If you make 2 Nidus Worms, okay?
2. Oh.
This
I never thought about making 2. That's so funny.
It's a cool tip if you're in a situation where you're just like, this fucking guy is so tank turtly and Thor turtly or whatever, you just cannot break him. If like this is especially if you have like Roach Hydra or something. If you cannot break into his base because it's such a pain in the ass to get through his defense, and he's just sitting there the whole time, and you're just like, you feel like you're throwing army after army away again and again and again. You can do this right here. As soon as they're done, it's you force a reaction and then you do something else to fuck them over. It's crazy.
Ah, right. Like a sleight of hand.
So 2 Niduses allows you to do this. You can make a Nidus behind your push where you're like, hey, Terran, I'm over here. He's got tanks and whatever. You're like, I cannot push there, but he knows I'm here. Maybe you're even standing inside of a sensor tower. And he's like, Zerg's right there. I know he is. You go Nidus. Same time, Nidus. And with an Overlord at the back of his base. And you have Overlord speed, so you can easily move your Overlords around to do for these. Now, if he moves back to kill the Nidus, you push his base when he has less army here. If he does not move back to kill the Nidus, and you'll tell because the Nidus will die or not. If he does not move back to kill the Nidus, you rotate into his base.
Oh, dude.
And then you're like, cool, now I'm in your base and I'm fucking you over. And then if he comes to defend his base, you can just straight up stop the Nidus. You click it and tell it to stop. Go back in the Nidus, rotate, go back to his 3rd base.
Oh, awesome.
So
that's super helpful too, especially with like slower units and stuff.
Yeah, this is a good way to. It just helps at breaking Terrans that are like, I'm never moving out. You're gonna always move into me, and I'm gonna have tanks everywhere. You're like, well, how about I just teleport in the back of your main base then? And you can always find you can always move Overlords around and try and find holes in other places and shit like that. Like a place where a Nidus could go up without getting killed by something. And then if you can't get this off, you can always add in like broods or some shit like that. But
it's sick, man.
But yeah, it's a cool way to like mess with Terran and kind of screw them over. But anyways, dude, I like that.
Dude, thanks so much. It's just good to get a second set of eyes on gameplay and just kind of see where it all really. I think the most valuable part of all this was when you said when you pointed out how the way I play is I just kind of depend on the Terran. I just depend on the Terran to take a bad fight, and it's like
a lot of people put like that.
It's not. Yeah, and it's really just not conducive to winning because it's like, why put your fate in the hands of your opponent doing something that they have the complete ability to like.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. You're hoping that they make a mistake and move out, but the real reality of what the way a lot of people don't realize what pro level Zergs do or high level Zerg gameplay is it forces Terran to move out, and then you run them over. A Terran player that knows you're just sitting there on low economy making units all day has no need to move out.
Yeah, and I feel like definitely at a certain point in the ladder, you're going to run into opponents that, they're better than that.
Yeah, no, people start scouting and shit. They're going to start paying attention for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, dude, this is I would say definitely save the replay if you didn't already do it, so you can just always compare yourself to the timers and make sure you're kind of hitting the beats pretty well. Oh, and if you forgot anything about like transitions of like what did ViBE say to do against this, always go back and reference the VOD as to we like that's why we really made sure it was like probably like 30 minutes ago from the point of the end of it. So I would say it's probably like 50 minutes in or something around there. We definitely talked about it a lot, and yeah, that'll definitely help you like understand all the aspects of Terran. And the goal is to definitely get to that 80 drone mark, I would say, if you're going to play macro styles, which it makes for like really reactive swaps for Zerg really easily. And then you can play with whatever styles you want to. And I would say for now, focus on either Roach Hydra for mech and whatever you like to do against mech, or focus on Lingbane Hydra initially for bio, and then you can go to like ultras and shit like that, and you know all the things we talked about. But you can, I would say, don't you really use like Mutalisk styles for now. Like just do those later.
Yeah,
because it's definitely more complicated. But yeah, this will probably help your ZvT a lot, man. Just don't forget to scout and try to react to what you see rather than react to what you think.
Great. Awesome, dude. Thanks so much for your time. I know it's like I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you probably got other things you got to do. So
I gotta smash the ladder games, dude.
Right on, man. I'll be watching. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, dude. Good luck and have a good rest of your day, man.
Thanks, man. You too. Peace.
See ya. All right, guys, that has been a coaching lesson with our boy, Cool Bum. So good shit. That was a good lesson. That was a Diamond 1, Diamond 2 lesson going into Masters. That was like definitely a solid way to play ZvT. That was also a pretty new style of ZvT that I've been working with myself. So that was the first time I've actually coached that specific thing with the Overlord speed. I really like it. So that's actually what I will advocate more now in general. But yeah, if you guys liked it, yeah, that will be uploaded to YouTube. That'll be up there later. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks for, go check out more videos if you liked it. And I will see you guys in the next one. So until then, good luck, take it easy, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.